All right. Going back to earlier statements you made, you mentioned that there were former opposition politicians who took Taylor to Libya and introduced him to Gaddafi. And those officials, or former officials, should be held responsible for the outcomes that we experienced during the civil conflict. Can you say who those former officials you have reference to? Who they are or who they were?
Well, let me say here squarely.
Or former, you say opposition politicians. Can you say who those opposition politicians were or are?
Well, I will cite a name to you, and then you can ask that person to give the rest of the people. What I do know is that on several occasions, while Charles Taylor was leading the rebellion, while he was in Nimba County at the various or military bases, I remember I saw Mrs. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf in her complete military uniform, visited those military bases. I don't know what she was doing there.
And where were you at the time?
But we all have heard as rumor.
No, I said, where were you at the time you saw?
Well, I was behind the line at certain time, and certain time I came on this side.
Well, I wouldn't know because you didn't explain that earlier.
So, I remember, I vividly saw her in her military uniform, and she and Charles Taylor were at the various military bases. So I will suggest to you that you find out from her if she was in any way linked, if she is one of those.
Well, it's very important that you have underscored this point.
Chairman, let's have it quiet, please. Please give the process the chance.
Now, it's very important that you have underscored this point, because nowhere in your presentation, either in your written presentation or in your oral presentation, did you make mention of the fact that you were behind the lines. So we would like to know what was your experience behind the lines. Where were you and what was the experience like?
Okay, very well. Well, let me come in. As I told you from the beginning.
And what year were you behind the lines?
At the time that I was here, I told you I never left the country.
Yes.
I did not go anywhere. I was here, and before even we started the relief work here in Monrovia, when the NPFL group came to Monrovia, it was horrible, and we all ran through Fender area, and that was the time that I went behind the line on that side, and I went as far as Nimba County. I was trying to find a way if I can cross into Ivory Coast to be able to come back here, because I did not know that it was so horrible on that side. I was looking for refuge, place where I can be safe. This is what carried me there. But when I got there, I saw horrible things. And because of that, I also had the advantage to visit some of these bases that were there. And there were occasions where I said, the landed lady in her military outfit visited the places. The rest, I think, you can find out from her, because at one time I remember that when you invited her here, she said she was writing her book, and when that book is complete, it will be released for the public to read. That book has not been released yet, but I will advise you, Commissioner, to please find out from her what really was she doing there?
Yes, but you have said you were there, so I'm asking you specifically, what time you were there?
Audience, please.
Where did you see her? How did you get access as a top official of PAL, PPP, whose leadership was targeted by the NPFL? As you have said now, you were there. Can you cite when you were there? Because we're trying to establish a record. Can you say when you were there, which military bases you were at, that did you visit? And as a top official of the Progressive People's Party, how is it that you were not targeted, you were not arrested, you were not detained, you were not bothered? And to get in such close proximity to the center of action without being recruited, forcibly recruited, without being bothered, without being arrested or harmed or anything. Can you throw some light on that?
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Please let me correct you. I don't think that the hierarchy of PPP was a target to the NPFL. We had no real problem with the NPFL.
So there was no difference in ideological outlook between the PPP and the NPFL?
Well, if there were differences between the PPP and the NPFL, those differences are best known to the two groups. But that does not mean that we were antagonists to each other.
So you were one and the same in other words?
So what I'm saying is that we had no business to do with the NPFL, but as I told you, when the IMPFL separated itself from the NPFL, it came to Monrovia, and the horrendous sites that we saw around here made some of us to seek refuge. And I was one of those that went beyond the line. I found out and I found my way to go to Greater Liberia. I was finding way to see if I could cross to Ivory Coast in order to maybe find a safe place. But in the process, as you know, usually when Mrs. Sirleaf or Charles Taylor were out there, it was a public thing. They were out there at times parading the streets, and they were even at the bases. And we even heard also that she was kind of part of it. And I don't know what she was doing in the military uniform, visiting Charles Taylor at that time, and nothing happened to her. That in itself showed that well, some way, somehow, she was linked. But she is the best person that can clarify that point. I will advise Commissioner that you ask her. She will clarify it.